الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فإن خفتم ألا تقسطوا في اليتامى فانكحوا ما طاب لكم من النساء مثنى وثلاث ورباع فإن خفتم ألا تعدلوا فواحدة أو ما ملكت أيمانكم ذلك أدنى ألا تعولوا صدق الله العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. The commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about yatama, about orphans are going on. Yesterday we talked about the second ayah of this surah, Surah Nisa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has talked about a general command towards the orphans, that whoever is taking care of an orphan, and the definition of an orphan is somebody who is not a baligh, because this becomes important in the perspective of this ayah, that a yatim is only that child who is not a baligh yet. So in the second ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had strictly forbidden any mixing, any unjust mixing, or any eating, consumption of the mal of the wealth of yatama, the orphans. Now this ayah is particularly about yatim girls, orphan girls. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى, if you fear that you will not be able to do justice to the orphans, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُمْ, then marry the women you like. مِنَ النِّسَاء مَا طَابَ لَكُمْ مِنَ النِّسَاء, marry the women that you like. مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ, in twos, in threes, and in fours. So apparently this ayah is a very important ayah, and there's a lot of masail driven from this ayah. The first thing is that is apparent is that if you fear that the orphan girls that are given under your care, you will not be able to do justice with them, then marry. But the meaning is ma taba lakum minan nisa. So yatama are the orphan girls, from the yatama are the non-baligh girls. If you fear that you will not be able to do justice, fankihu ma taba lakum minan nisa, then do nikah from women in twos and in threes and in fours that you like. So the meaning of the ayah is that if you have a need for nikah, then don't marry the women that are under your care from the orphans, but marry other women that you may like. And if you like to marry, then you can marry twos and threes and fours, but do not unjustly marry the orphan girls that are given under your care. So, and there was a norm back then, that somebody is taking care of an orphan girl who is somehow maybe rich. She has got some wealth, some sort of a wealth from their parents who have passed away, or her father that has passed away. Now the caretaker will do what? Will perform nikah with that child. And then what will they do? The benefit is twofold. Number one, whatever meher that they would want to set, however less of a meher they would want to set, they would set it. Because who sets the meher? Primarily the wali of the girl, the caretaker of the girl. So from the girl side, they are themselves the caretaker of the girl, and the person marrying the girl is themselves again. So they will set whatever meher they would want, and whatever wealth was the property of the girl, that will also become their property. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that if that is the case, if there is a chance that adl, that justice will not be maintained, then, and you have to marry, you feel like you have the need to marry, then many other women are there. You can go and marry them. Apart from these orphan girls, go and marry women that you may want, that you like. Ma taba lakum, ulama have given two meanings to this. Ma taba lakum, tab, tayyib, atyab is things that are pure, and something does not become pure unless they are halal. So one meaning is that marry those women that are halal for you, and the other meaning is that those women that you may like. So go and marry 2 or 3 or 4, as many as you want, up to the number of 4, but don't marry these girls unjustly. The other thing is that another thing that is driven from this ayah is that justice has to be maintained in the, especially particularly in the case of yatim girls, orphan girls. If the situation comes when you are deciding about their marriage, then you have to maintain justice and look after and safeguard their best interest and do adl. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to catch you. And this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing very clearly that if you do not do justice in that regard, particularly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, this is a major sin in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other masala that is driven is that for men, Islam allows up to four women in marriage at the same time. At one time, a man can have up to four wives in marriage. The reason is that, number one, in all previous religions and in the religion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, multiple marriages were a norm. Multiple marriages were a norm. Islam restricted the number to a maximum of four. In Christianity, in Judaism, in the people who declared themselves or like to call themselves that they were following the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salam, or the pagans of Arabia, they would have 20, 30 wives. And the really bad thing about it was that they would not do justice with these wives. So first of all comes the discussion that why does Islam permit multiple marriages, and why does Islam not restrict one to one wife, which sometimes we think is the more sane option. One very simple answer to this is that if we compare the societies which have made it a stigma to have multiple wives, those societies compared to the Islamic society are always in a worse shape. Those societies, for example, the Western societies, who have said that multiple marriages are not legal, you can only have one wife. The result of that is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made men in a way that they have desire which they look for opportunities to fulfill. And if they are restricted to one wife, what happens is that legally they cannot make a formal marriage. So to fulfill their desire, it's a general thing in these societies, zina or adultery is a common thing. In Western societies, they try to restrict men to one wife, and they have, number one, their family system is broken because men would make zina and not take care of the responsibilities of the products of zina, the children that will be produced as a result of zina, or the women whose life will be ruined because there's nobody to take responsibility for them after what men did to them. The other thing is that in such societies where only one marriage is allowed, there is a lot of women who are without nikah, And whenever in any society there is women who are without nikah, adultery and extramarital relationships and fornication will be widespread. It will become widespread. This is how the system works. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing the nature of humankind, has allowed for multiple marriages, but in contrast to the previous culture, which was to have 20 and 30 wives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala massively restricted that number to up to a 4 only. And not only that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدًا. If you have the slightest risk, fear that you will not be able to do justice with 4 or between your multiple wives, فَوَاحِدًا, then only one is allowed for you. What is justice in terms of multiple wives? The number of nights that you spend with your multiple wives. If you have multiple wives, then it has to be equally divided. The number of wealth, the amount that you spend, the amount that you give, in fact the gifts that you give to your wives, they have to be equal. And you have to be able to take care of the basic needs as explained by Sharia of all of your wives, if you choose to have multiple wives, if a man chooses to have multiple wives. أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes even further and says that if you can't even take care of one of them, then don't marry. And at that time there was a system of concubines, a system of slave girls. So restrict yourself to that. ذَلِكَ أَدْنَى أَلَّا تَعُولُوا. This is closer to abstaining from injustice. This is closer to abstaining from injustice. In this, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not saying that this is absolutely safeguarding you from injustice, therein is a meaning that even with single wife, there is a chance that you could do injustice to that single woman. You got that point? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, marry twos or threes or fours, but if you fear that you won't be able to do justice, then stick to one, or not even one, but stay with bondswomen. That is better for you in order to protect you from injustice. So there is still a chance that you can do injustice even when you have a single wife. Even with your single wife, you can do injustice. So stay away from that. Anyway, from this there is a discussion that when Islam, there's a long discussion and there's answers to that, which is very important discussion, that when the Quran is restricting the number of wives to 4, why did the Prophet ﷺ have more wives? Very briefly, the Prophet ﷺ, for the most part of his life, he had only one wife. At the age of 25 years. So 25 years he spent in Makkah, and everyone would testify, would be a testimony to the pure and beautiful character of the Prophet ﷺ, number one, up to the age of 25 years. At peak of his youth, at 25 years of age, he married a woman who was much more in age than him, Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha, at the age of 25 years. And for 25 full years, the Prophet was married only to one woman, and all of his adulthood, all of his youthhood, he passed with that woman. So if he was, na'uzu billah, a man of a poor character, na'uzu billah, as these people want to claim, because they compare themselves, the problem is that they don't accept him to be a Nabi. So they judge him based on how they are themselves. That is why they think that somebody, if they have multiple wives, the only reason that they can think of is the reason why they would want more than one wife. And that is shahwat, that is nafsaniya, that is their base desires, evil desires. The Prophet ﷺ was a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but even if you put that aside, na'uzu billah, even then, a person who is driven by his desires, does he spend 25 years of his youthhood with a woman which is almost double his age? And as long as Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha lived, the Prophet ﷺ did not marry anyone else. When he was 50 years of age, Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha passed away. The Prophet ﷺ married Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha and Sayyidah Hafsa radiallahu anha, if I remember correct, one other wife. And from those even, only one came to his house. Not Sayyidah Aisha, if Sayyidah Hafsa was the other one, if I remember correct, she came to his house. In the last, I think the Prophet ﷺ, if I remember correct, was 54 years of age. At what age did the Prophet ﷺ pass away? 62 years. At 54 years of age was the first time when the Prophet ﷺ had 2 women in his nikah at the same time. At 58 years of age was the time when the Prophet ﷺ had more than 2 wives. He reached the number of 4. At 58 years of age. In the last 4 years, all the other wives that we hear about became a part of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. And every single nikah that the Prophet ﷺ performed was under direct order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there was wisdom, there was political wisdom, there was religious wisdom behind every single nikah of the Prophet ﷺ. A few examples: Sayyidah Juwairiya radiallahu anha, her whole tribe had come as prisoners to the Prophet ﷺ and Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ, when he married Sayyidah Juwairiya radiallahu anha, all those people who had came as slaves to the Muslims, they all became what? The susral of the Prophet ﷺ, right? You understand susral? In-laws. The in-laws of the Prophet ﷺ. So the Sahaba freed all those people. 200 some people were freed only because they became the in-laws of the Prophet ﷺ. Similarly, Salama radiallahu anha, Salama radiallahu anha is another wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm just trying to give a few examples. She is the only wife who came in the nikah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who brought kids from her previous marriage. The purpose was to show the ummah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed such extreme love to his stepchildren. Otherwise, the whole chapter of how to take care of his stepchildren if someone runs into that situation would have been deleted, would not have existed. The Prophet ﷺ would eat with them in the same plate. And this the famous hadith that we all know, Sammillah wa kul bi yaminik, take the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and eat with your right hand. They come from one of the stepchild of the Prophet ﷺ. So these are the reasons. Over 2,000 hadiths from the private life of the Prophet ﷺ have come from Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha. Because how would have we known about the private life of the Prophet ﷺ? The purpose of all these marriages was to propagate deen in manners and in ways that are much beyond the comprehension of these people who want to point a finger na'uzubillah towards the best of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, those are a few examples. That is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given a specific permission, and this is only with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he was allowed at the end of towards the end of his life, he had more wives than 4. If the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam na'uzubillah was doing it out of his desire, then there is an ayah of the Quran which was recited to the Sahaba by who? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself recited that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded me that now I cannot marry any more women, no matter how much I like them, no matter how much I'm attracted to them. So if the Prophet na'uzu billah was a person who was driven by his desire, why would he come out to the Sahaba and read this ayah to the Sahaba? So these things are all baseless, and there is a reason behind every marriage of the Prophet ﷺ, and na'uzu billah, hasha wa kallah, that reason was not the desire of the Prophet ﷺ, but it was the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the benefits are apparent if you do even a bit of research. If you read for 5 minutes into the marriages of the Prophet ﷺ with an open mind and heart, one will find out that the reason was purely divine. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us respect to the Prophet ﷺ, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us steadfast on our deen. Amin ya rabbal alameen. Allahumma ij'alna min ahli al-Qur'an alladhi yahdika wa khassatuhu. Sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqi sayyidina wa Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amin.